Hello, grade 10 students, and welcome to the revision lecture for the first chapter. We're going to be revising all the skills, the reading skills and strategies we took so far, and we're going to revise it in the context of the theme of environmental issues, which we've taken several lessons in. Now, as you know, Lebanon is a country suffering from major environmental issues. I mean, just to name a few, water pollution, air pollution, garbage pollution, noise pollution, wildfires, etc. Now, by the end of this lecture, you will be able to discuss ideas related to different environmental issues in Lebanon, figure out the meanings of unfamiliar vocab words and terms related to this theme, identify and recall synonyms related to the theme, evaluate the significance of a title with relation to the text, identify the thesis statement, and of course you're gonna, whether it's explicit or implicit, directly stated, or the author just implies it. Identify types of introduction and the function of the introduction, identify patterns of organization in a paragraph, and finally you need to analyze a given chart. So let's begin first by reading the text. We always begin with the blurb. Read the below text that reveals how the EU stopped waste management project that would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste. When you are through with the reading, answer the questions that follow. First of all, the EU is the European nations, a group of European nations. So they had previously provided Lebanon with a waste management project. Unfortunately, this project was wasted and it didn't go as planned and wasn't well managed. So let's read what happened. Title: EU Waste Management Project Stopped. Beirut, the European Union, EU, has pulled the plug on a waste management project in response to the Environment Ministry's recent closure of EU-funded air quality monitoring stations across Lebanon. Okay, so they have a waste management project. They installed this waste management project. What's a waste management project? Okay, the wastes, the garbage, etc. They manage it in certain facilities. So the Ministry of the Environment closed it. It was EU funded. What does it mean that it was EU funded? It was the money for this project was given by the European Union, a group of European nations. The waste management project binned in May. Binned means put in the trash. So the ministry just simply closed it. Would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste. Paragraph 2. Sources familiar with the matter told the Daily Star. The Daily Star is the newspaper where I got this article from. Told the Daily Star that the decision signaled a rethink in the EU's environmental spending patterns in Lebanon, amid criticism that local partners were unable to sustain environmental projects it has started. So this group of European nations provided Lebanon with funding and money for this project. Unfortunately, the Lebanese partners, the local partners, did not sustain it. What does it mean to sustain something? To keep it functioning for a long time. Paragraph 3. The Environment Ministry announced last week that it had closed all 26 of its air quality monitoring stations. Okay, so what do those stations do? They monitor the quality of air that we're breathing, how much CO2 there is in it, how much methane, and all those toxic gases that are causing global warming. The Environment Ministry announced last week that it had closed all 26 of its air quality monitoring stations because it could not afford their maintenance cost. So the ministry simply said, I can't afford this. A total of $500,000 per year due to deep spending cuts in the draft 2019 state budget. So when Lebanon made its budget plan, they said that we will be unable to pay $500,000 just to maintain facilities that will simply monitor the quality of air we're breathing. Out of all the ministries, the Environment Ministry will receive the third smallest allocation in draft budget at around $8 million. So the whole Ministry of Environment in Lebanon will only get $8 million per year. I mean, a whole ministry in a devastated a place like Lebanon, which is environmentally devastated. Any type of major environmental issue is present in Lebanon, yet they allocate or they give only $8 million per year to this major ministry, which has been made minor by the government. Now, paragraph 4. The EU was only informed a month prior to the station's closure. So they only told this group of European nations 1 month before they closed the station totally. Although the EU said it hoped to keep the stations open, it has yet to come up with a funding alternative. So will there be an alternative to reopen those stations? Paragraph 5. The EU had previously paid the maintenance cost of 11 stations with the understanding that the ministry would continue to fund the amount after the contracts end in April. Instead of making new investments, the EU will try to protect existing investments, the sources said. In September, the EU will evaluate the implementation of an €8 million, almost $9 million program that ran between 2014 and 2017. This was when the EU was paying for this project and had been designed to help the Environment Ministry plan and execute environmental policies. So all those 3 years, those nations were helping the country manage its environmental problems. Paragraph 6. The program named Support to Reform Environmental Governance included installing 11 of the ministry's now disused air quality monitoring stations. What do we mean disused? It means they were closed. Ziad Abishakir, founder of Cedar Environmental, a private company specialized in building recycling plants, told the Daily Star that more EU money should be spent on accountability programs that prioritize transparency among local partners. So those partners in Lebanon that the EU worked with should have been more transparent, should have been maybe more honest, instead of investing in projects that lacked long-term sustainability. Any project, according to Abishakir, any project that the EU will fund in Lebanon, they should look at the local partners and hire people that will make this program live for a long time. The EU should put in place some kind of accountability program for whoever gets the funds. So you have partners in Lebanon, you give them funds, money to make these huge projects. Be careful who they are. I mean, are they going to keep this working? Is it going to stay, or is it going to be closed as has happened with this one? It could be a ministry. These funds might be given to a ministry, for example, instead of private people or private groups. There should be an accountability process that should apply to all local partners. What does it mean to be held accountable or to have accountability? Okay, so who is responsible for wasting this project, for not allowing it to be sustainable? That's what Abishakir is saying. Abishakir stopped working on donor-funded projects 13 years ago, preferring to work directly with banks, which he said could provide funds quicker and sustain projects for longer. We found that the projects funded by donors did not answer our standards of sustainability. He said, EU-funded solid waste treatment facilities have a particularly questionable track record. Between 2004 and 2018, the EU funded 10 facilities. Facilities are like, certain establishments, places, several of which had stopped working or never been operational by July 2018. So, in a way, Abi Shakir is criticizing anything that was funded by the EU because they always end up in a bad way. Paragraph 8. Municipal issues have hampered the functioning of facilities across the country, including composting facilities in Tripoli and Nabatee's Ansar, and a treatment plant in Kfur, also in Nabatee. Environmental activist Paul Abi Rashid said he had visited the latter facility after its construction in 2016 and found it a perfect place to sort and compost. Compost is when you get all the organic waste, like waste from food, garbage, etc., and you make it into a compost, something that you would use later on as fertilizer, as something that's biodegradable and doesn't hurt the environment. Paragraph 9, but he added, the plant's proper functioning has been impeded by squabbling between the municipality and the company running the plant, as well as the closure of a nearby dump site for rejected waste. Abi Shakir said he had witnessed many donors. Donors, of course, are people who give money or give something without expecting anything in return. He had witnessed many donors withdraw funding to spend the money elsewhere, adding that environmental projects should only ever be started with a minimum scope of 15 years. So instead of a 2-year, 3-year plan, which is not working in Lebanon, it's not sustainable, it's not lasting, what Abi Rashid is saying that the plan or the scope of this plan should be 15 years. Lasts a long time. The donor retreats and funds other projects. Once they are turned over to municipalities like the local people who govern a certain village or a certain town or a certain city, the local government in those places. Okay, when it's returned to them in a short time, the municipality is unable to fund it and unable to sustain it. So, according to Abi Rashid, those EU donors must keep on managing and funding those projects for a scope of 15 years. Some take a few months, others years to stop working, Abi Rashid said. As for the EU's erstwhile waste management project, Abi Rashid told the Daily Star that it would have provided much needed data for the Environment Ministry. In addition to monitoring the rate of pollutants disposed, accurate data helps you decide on which treatment you choose, Abi Rashid said, adding that he believed the percentage of organic waste to be higher than suggested by the 2014 data, which put organic waste at around 50% of Lebanon's waste. Finally, an Environment Ministry source said the ministry would try to put into action, the project despite the withdrawal of EU funding. But when it comes to running the EU-funded plants, Abi Rashid expressed belief that local partners were to blame. Sustainability and running of plants is our fault and not the EU's. It is absolutely a Lebanese problem. So Abi Rashid obviously is both criticizing the EU's funding, the way they're funding, the scope of time, which he believes is short and should be extended to 15 years. And he's also criticizing the local partners who are unable to sustain those programs. When given to them, when handed to them, those programs usually falter and fail. This article was written by Jacob Boswell, July 20, 2019. Okay, now let's move on to the questions. Answer each of the following questions in 1 to 4 complete sentences using your own words. In reference to paragraph 2 and 3, identify 2 factors that contributed to the waste management project stop. What contributed to stopping this waste management project? Again, waste management is that You manage this waste. You take this for recycling, this for dumping, this for compost, etc., etc. This is what the project was doing, and the ministry stopped it because it was unable to fund. Let's take a look at the paragraphs here displayed for you. The answers should be here. 2 factors that contributed to the waste management project stop. Okay, that the decision signaled a rethink amid criticism that the local partners were unable to sustain environmental projects. So first of all, the local partners weren't able to continue with it. Paragraph 3, the Environment Ministry announced last week that it had closed all 26 of its air quality monitoring stations because it could not afford their maintenance. So also, the Environment Ministry was unable to pay for it because there were budget cuts from the government for this ministry. It's only receiving, as a ministry, a whole ministry only receiving $8 million per month, per year in Lebanon, which is a very low amount of money. So there's the answer. There were 2 factors that contributed to the waste management project stop. One factor was that the EU recognized that the local partners were unable to sustain environmental projects it had started. The other factor was that the Environment Ministry announced that it had closed all 26 of its air quality monitoring stations because it could not afford their maintenance cost. Maintenance means keeping something going, fixing the problem, making sure everything is working well. That's what maintenance means. Number 2, state in reference to paragraphs 7 and 9 displayed here 4 challenges that stand in the face of having sustainable environmental projects. So they mentioned several in both those paragraphs. You have to read them thoroughly, of course, when you're answering questions. The 4 challenges that stand in the face of having sustainable environment project are: the projects funded by donors did not answer the standards of sustainability. Okay, they don't last long. Treatment facilities have a particularly questionable track record. Some projects were stopped working or never operational. Donors favored to spend the money elsewhere. Those are the 4 challenges. Question number 3, pick 2 pieces of evidence from paragraph 1 and 10 which show that stopping the waste management project was bad for the environment in Lebanon. Let's see. Paragraph 1, the European Union has pulled the plug on a waste management project in response to the Environment Ministry's recent closure of EU-funded air quality monitoring stations across Lebanon. Would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste, so there will no longer be waste management data. We will no longer have data for this. Numbers, what's going on, what is been done with our waste, what kind of waste do Lebanese produce. Paragraph 10, as for the EU's erstwhile waste management project, Abi Rashid told the Daily Star that it would have provided much needed data. We said that, of course. And accurate data helps you decide on which treatment you choose. So those are 2 major effects. Evidence from paragraph 1, the waste management project binned in May, binned again we said that thrown in the trash, would have provided fresh data in Lebanon's municipal solid waste. This is one evidence. Another evidence in paragraph 10, as for the EU's erstwhile waste management project, Abi Rashid told the Daily Star that it would have provided much needed data for the Environment Ministry. So those are 2 pieces of evidence that show how important this project that was binned was for Lebanon. Now, paragraph number 4. Question number 4, in your opinion, who is to be blamed for the stop of the waste management project in Lebanon? Justify with the evidence from the text. After reading the text, obviously Abi Rashid talked a lot about the local partners in Lebanon, and remember, who is to be blamed in Lebanon, okay? To stop this in Lebanon, you would say maybe the partners in Lebanon, and you would provide a piece of evidence where Abi Rashid said how the local partners weren't able to sustain those projects well. Okay, you can also say that the EU should have, you have just one, you need to answer just one. You can also say that the EU should have made its project more long-term. The scope of time should have been larger in order for the municipalities to be able to take action later, or take it to their responsibility later on. Okay, now answer the following questions. Now we come to the organizational skills questions, which are very, very important, and I will explain each one of them in detail. Identify two functions of the opening paragraph in relation to the whole text. Obviously, the opening paragraph is the introduction. I am not asking you for the type of introduction. I'm asking you to tell me what are its purposes or its functions. Let's reread it again. Beirut. The European Union has pulled the plug on a waste management project in response to Environment Ministry's recent closure of EU-funded air quality monitoring stations across Lebanon. The waste management project binned in May would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste. If I were to ask you what type of introduction, I didn't ask you, I just asked you for the purpose, you would say interesting or surprising fact and or statistic, because I talked about how the European Union pulled the plug or stopped the waste management project. It no longer wants to fund it. But what is the function? What did this introduction do? When you read it, what do you think it did? Look at the purposes of any introduction. When I ask you, what are three purposes for this type of introduction, what would you say? Obviously, it introduced the reader to the topic and gave background information about the topic. It introduced the thesis statement in this case. It prepared the reader for a thorough discussion. It provided a background for what will be discussed in the article. Here's my answer. One function of this introductory paragraph is to introduce the main idea of the text. Note here, you don't just stop there. What is that main idea? Which is about the stopping of the waste management project sponsored by the EU. In addition, the purpose is to provide some background information about the topic, such as the main purpose of the project that would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste. So those are two purposes. If I had asked you for the type, you would have written interesting facts and then justified it this way. But I just asked you for the purpose of this introductory paragraph. What did it do? Now, question number 2, is the thesis statement in the above article explicit, directly stated, or implicit, just implied? Explain. When you take a look at the introduction again, remember, what was the main idea of the whole article? It was how this project by the EU was binned or put to trash or stopped. Do we see that? Do we see a thesis like that? Let's take a look at the last sentence. The waste management project binned in May would have provided fresh data on Lebanon's municipal solid waste. Exactly, this is the main idea of the whole article. Okay? So obviously it is explicit, it's present and directly stated. So this is how we answer the question. The thesis statement in the above article is directly stated in the last sentence of the introduction. It holds the main idea of the whole text or article, which talks about the EU waste management project in Lebanon and how it was trashed or binned or stopped. Okay? Okay, question number 3. What is the significance of the title EU Waste Management Project Stopped? Obviously, take a look at this title. It is a condensed summary of the whole article, of the whole main idea of the article. So the way we would answer this is that the title EU Waste Management Project Stopped is a condensed or a mini summary of the main idea of the whole article, which talks about how the EU waste management project in Lebanon was put into trash or was stopped. Full stop. And that's it. You get a full grade for that. Now, patterns of organization. What pattern of organization did the author use in paragraph 5? Let's read it. The EU had previously paid, there's a keyword, previously paid for the maintenance and cost of 11 of the stations, with the understanding that the ministry would continue to fund the amount after the contracts end in April. Instead of making new investments, the EU will try to protect existing investments, the source said. In September, the EU will evaluate the implementation of 8 million euros program, which ran 2014 to 2017. All those words are what pattern? Let's take a look. Those are the 7 patterns of organization that we will take this year. Exemplification is where you state an idea and give an example, and those are the keywords. For example, for instance, such as the case of definition, where you present a term and then you define it, okay, like adolescence, like photosynthesis, for example, that's definition. Comparison, you show the similarity between 2 concepts, you use keywords like these. Contrast, you show the difference and you use keywords like these, okay. Cause effect, where you show a cause effect relationship and you use those keywords. Listing and classification, where you are listing several items, nouns, 3 or more nouns, or verbs or adjectives, okay. And finally, the time order or chronological order. The author organizes his or her ideas in the order of time. Words such as after, later on, April, the following year, 1 month later, etc. Basically, time expressions are used. So this is a pattern of time and chronological order. Looking back at the paragraph, take a look at all the lines here, April, after, September, previously. So obviously the pattern of organization is one of time order or chronological order if you want. But I need to justify. The pattern of organization in paragraph 5 is one of time order. The author uses words such as previously, April, and September, when the EU was helping in waste management in Lebanon and trying to keep the project functioning, full stop. Okay, this you state the pattern and you justify. You give me the clue words or the keywords that led you to this type. Okay, now on question on authenticity. Obviously, authenticity means credibility and objectivity. They all mean the same. And to be authentic means to be real, to be believable and trustworthy. How does the writer achieve this credibility or authenticity in paragraphs 3, 5, and 7? We talked about how an author achieves credibility or objectivity or authenticity. The author needs to use 1, facts and statistics, real life examples, real dates, real names, real people. 3, expert opinions, witness testimony, statement of authority. The author needs to use at least one of those to be credible, to be believable. Let's take a look at paragraph 3. Obviously, we see a lot of numbers, so the author here is using facts and statistics. Okay, and you give me some numbers. Okay, say paragraph 3, the author uses facts and statistics, and you say a $500,000 total amount that it would cost to maintain those centers or those stations. Paragraph 5, you take a look, you see a lot of dates. Okay. Paragraph 7, obviously, statement of authority or an expert opinion. So this is how we would answer it. The writer achieves authenticity or credibility in paragraph 3, 5, and 7 through using many types of supporting evidence. The writer uses statistical figures such as, okay, you need to mention a few. He also uses specific dates such as, okay, and you can write, of course, you can write the author used the expert opinion of Abi Shakir, who was, okay, you need to tell me that he was the president for an environmental organization, etc. Now, chart analysis. This is part D of your worksheet. Take a look at this chart. We read, first of all, the chart below displays the greenhouse gas emission in some countries as of 2016 and 2017. Study it carefully, then answer the question that follows. China, okay, greenhouse gas emissions, what's given off? 27.5%. In 2017, it's 30. USA, 14.75. And then 14.14 in 2017. India, 6.43, then 8.31. Finally, Russia, 4.86 and 8.23. Now, what do the percentages indicate about the greenhouse gas emissions in the above-mentioned countries? Justify with evidence from the chart. Whenever you are given this, a chart or a pie chart or a bar graph or a line graph, you have to answer it in one way, where your answer is divided into 3 parts. The topic sentence taken directly from here, okay? The chart displays the greenhouse gas emission in some countries as of 2016 and 2017, full stop. You got the topic sentence part. That's a quarter of a point you earned. Analysis, now you start analyzing the numbers. You notice that in 3 of those countries, the amount of greenhouse gases increased from 2016 to 2017 in China, in India, and in Russia. In the States, it's the only country in this chart that whose greenhouse gas emissions actually decreased a little. So you draw out a conclusion. What conclusion can you say? You can say that most of those countries, even the US, is not doing much about greenhouse gas emission issues. Okay, so from 14.75 to 14.14, it's not much. It's not like it went down 3 or 4%. So let's take a look at how this should be answered. Obviously, the topic sentence taken directly from the title. The table depicts the percentages of greenhouse gas emissions between 2016 and 2017, full stop. As seen in 2016, China scored the highest rate with 27.51%, while Russia scored the lowest. However, the year 2017 had different rating. China remained highest, but with an increased rate from 27.51 into 30%. Russia remained lowest, but with an increase into 8.23. In conclusion, these rates show that all the mentioned countries showed no concern about the environment, since none of the countries worked to decrease the emission of greenhouse gases. Okay, you could have also said in the analysis that the US, there wasn't a major decrease. It almost stayed the same. So obviously none of those countries are seriously working on the decrease of emissions of greenhouse gases. Now, correcting false statements. The following 2 statements are false. Rewrite each correctly so that it agrees with what is stated or implied by the writer in the text. Number 1, the EU did not pay for the maintenance of stations because the contract with the Ministry of Environment ended in April. Of course, that's false. Abi Shaker disclosed that donors had the waste management project as a priority in their plan. Of course not, they went to other projects. So, in fact, it is the Lebanese ministry who had to continue paying for the maintenance of the stations because the contract the EU had with the Ministry of Environment ended in April. So it was the Lebanese ministry who continued maintaining. The EU paid its share only. Abi Shaker, number 2, disclosed that donors had other priorities than the waste management project. Because of this, they stopped funding the environment-related projects. E. Okay, a very interesting question which you will get a lot of, especially in quizzes. Pick out from the indicated paragraph or paragraphs one example to illustrate each of the following. A time signal word in paragraph 3. Let's see. Where do you see a time signal word? This is one time signal word last week. Okay, so which also shows that the pattern here could be one of chronological order, if you were asked. Now, paragraph 4, a contrast signal word, something that shows the opposite. Okay, that the ministry would fund instead of making new. The EU will try to. Okay, in September, evaluate and okay, that ran and had designed to help them and execute environmental policies. Fund instead of this, they did that. So this is a contrast signal word. A fact statement. The first one could go as a fact. The EU had previously paid the maintenance cost of 11 of the stations. This is a fact. Okay, and you have other facts here. The EU will evaluate the implementation of an 8 million euro program. Paragraph 11, an opinion statement. Okay, where Abishakir was giving his opinion, and he said this is absolutely a Lebanese problem, where he was criticizing the local Lebanese partners of the EU. Okay, and there are the answers. A time signal last week, contrast signal word instead, a fact. Okay, a fact is something that is just logical and something that can be proven, of course, and an opinion, Abi Rashid's opinion. It is absolutely a Lebanese problem. Moving on to the last part, pick out from the indicated paragraphs the synonyms of the following words. Synonyms. A synonym, of course, as you know from last year, the synonym of a verb has to be a verb, a noun should be a noun, an adjective, and also the synonym of a past simple needs to be past simple. Present simple needs to be present simple. So this is a clue for you when you are a little doubtful about a certain word. Is it the same part of speech? Is it the same tense? If it's not, then obviously it's not a synonym. Okay? A synonym is a one-word meaning for another word. Number 1, nourish and nurture in paragraph 2. Sources familiar with the matter told the Daily Star that the decision signaled a rethink in the EU's environmental spending patterns in Lebanon, amid criticism that the local partners were unable to sustain environmental projects. Sustain, keep something working, nourishing it, feeding it, okay? Paragraph 5, care and conservation. The EU had previously paid the maintenance cost, taking care of something, conserving it, fixing the faults in it so that it lasts. That's maintenance. So noun. Assess, this is a verb. Okay, paragraph 5 again. To fund the, okay, instead of making new investments, the EU will try to protect existing investments, the sources said. In September, the EU will evaluate the implementation of an 8 million euro program. Okay, to assess something, evaluate. When you are given a test or a quiz, the teacher is assessing you or is evaluating you, evaluating your work or what you know so far. Paragraph 9, disagreement. Number 4, disagreement. But he added the plant's proper functioning has been impeded by squabbling between the municipality and the company running the plant. Squabbling. When you squabble with a friend or a sibling, okay, you disagree, you start arguing. That is what squabbling means. Okay, so those are the answers. Nourish and nurture, sustain, to keep something alive, keep it working and functioning for a long time. Care and conservation, maintenance. Assess, evaluate. Disagreement or quarrel or argument, squabbling. Okay, so this is all. You can watch this video more than once if you need to, because you are going to be quizzed on this. So this is all for now. Take care. Bye.